Punta naman tayo sa third method of solving quadratic equation, which is yung completing the square. How to use completing the square method. Here are the steps on how to solve quadratic equation by completing the square. Okay, so to better understand this, let's have an example. Our first example is solve x squared minus 5x plus 4 is equals to 0. Let's follow the steps recommended. So number 1, separate the constant term from the variable terms. Kapag sinabing variable terms, literally, those are the terms with variables. So meron tayo ditong quadratic term and linear term na merong variable. Kaya ang ibig sabihin lang ng step number 1, ihihiwalay natin yung constant term which is yung positive 4 kasi yun lang naman ang walang variable. So to do that, we can apply the addition property of equality by adding negative 4 on both sides of the equation. When you do that, mawawala na yung positive 4 dito sa side na to, or alternatively, you can do the transposition kasi mas madali yun. Okay, so itong positive 4, kapag transpose natin siya dito sa kabilang side ng equation, mag-iiba yung kanyang sign. So, magiging negative 4 na siya. So, magiging ganito na yung equation natin. Okay, so yung x squared minus 5x is equals to negative 4. Na-separate na yung negative 4 dahil transpose natin siya dito sa right side ng equation. Step 2 naman, divide both sides by the value of a. Okay, so obviously, ang value ng a natin dito ay 1. As we all know, kapag dinivide natin ng isang number or expression ng 1, walang magiging effect. Kaya, skip na natin yung step 2 na to. Pero kung hindi naman 1 ang value ng a natin, you have to follow the recommended step. Step 3, add the square of 1/2 of the coefficient of the linear term on both sides of the equation. Okay, so ibig sabihin, kung ano daw ang coefficient ng linear term, kukuhanin mo lang yung kalahati noon, tapos square mo or apply mo yung expression na to. Okay, so let's try. So what is the coefficient of our linear term in this equation? Okay, so tama. It's negative 5. So, i-substitute natin ito dito sa expression nito. So, dito natin ilagay sa kabilang side. So, let's have okay, so ito yon. So, b over 2 squared. So, isa-substitute lang natin. Ano ang b natin? So, ang b natin ay negative 5. And then, divided by 2. Then, square lang natin siya. Okay, negative 5 square is equals to positive 25. And 2 square is equals to 4. Okay, yung result dito, sabi dito sa step 3, i-add natin siya on both sides of the equation. Okay, so ganito. So, ito, yung side na to, yung x squared minus 5x, ito yung kinopya ko lang. So, plus blank is equals to negative 4 plus blank. Okay, so anong ilalagay natin dito sa blank na to? Yung result na nakuha natin dito sa expression na to, mula dito sa step 3. So, ilagay lang natin yan. Okay. Okay, bakit both sides kailangan natin i-add? Okay, so simply because we are maintaining the law of equality. Ang sabi, kung anong nilagay mo sa left side, yun din ang gagawin mo sa right side. Now, pag ginawa mo na yung step 3, magiging perfect square trinomial na ito. So, kaya, pwede na natin gawin ang step 4. So, ang step 4 natin, express the left side of the equation as a square of binomial. So, pwede na natin itong gawin square of binomial. So, papaano natin gagawin yon? Ganito lang. Okay, so ang ginawa lang natin, kinuha lang natin yung square root nito. Okay, yung square root ng x squared is x. Tapos, yung square root ng 25 over 4. The square root of 25 is 5. Yung square root ng 4 ay 2. Then, square. Negative. So, sunod, i-simplify lang natin yung part na to. So, ang ginagawa ko lang dyan ay diba dito, pwede mong lagyan yan ng 1 over 1 para maging balance lang yung dalawang to, yung fraction na to. So, negative 4 over 1. Tapos, you can do the cross multiplication method. So, multiply mo muna yung denominator dito. So, 1 times 4, yun yung denominator mo, 4. Then, i-cross multiply mo lang to. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Tapos, diba sabi ko kanina may 1 ito. So, 1 times, cross mo lang to, 1 times 25 is positive 25. Okay, so, ang next is simplify muna natin to bago tayo mag-proceed sa step 5. So, ikakopyahin ko lang to. Bring down x minus 5 over 2 square is equals to what is negative 16 plus 25. Okay, it's positive 9 over 4. Now, step 5. Solve the resulting quadratic equation by extracting the square root. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung part na to, very familiar kasi ginawa natin to doon sa extracting the square root. So, itong x minus 5 over 2, ito yung part ng x. Tapos, square. Quadratic term, then yung constant term or yung k. Kaya pwede natin i-apply dito sa part na to yung extracting the square root. So, papaano yun? Yan. So, extract lang natin both sides of the equation. So, lalagyan lang natin ng radical sign. Then, to simplify, the square root of quantity x minus 5 over 2. So, ika-cancel lang natin yung radical and then yung exponent. So, ang natira na lang dyan ay x minus 5 over 2. Then, here, the square root of 9 over 4. Sayin muna natin yung square root ng numerator, then yung square root ng denominator. So, since yung 9 over 4 is greater than 0, so, ibig sabihin, meron tayong dalawang roots dito or dalawang real roots. So, it's either positive and negative 3 over 2. Why 3 over 2? Because the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, step 6, solve the resulting linear equation. So, we have to isolate the x dito sa left side ng equation. Tapos, then ililipat natin yung negative 5 over 2 dito sa right side. Para mas madali, transpose na lang natin yung negative 5 over 2 dito sa right side ng equation. Dito. Okay, so x na lang natira dito sa left side. Pag transpose natin ito, mag-iiba yung kanyang sign. Okay, so ito, bring down muna natin yan. Then, negative 5 over 2 magiging positive 5 over 2. So, since meron tayo ditong positive and negative, so ibig sabihin, hihiwalayin natin to. So, yung isa positive 3 over 2, yung isa ay negative 3 over 2. So, dito na natin gawin dahil wala ng space. So, una, x is equals to, yung positive muna yung gamitin natin, positive 3 over 2 plus 5 over 2. Then, yung isa naman is negative. So, x is equal to negative 3 over 2, then plus 5 over 2. So, isi-simplify lang natin to. So, we have x, addition of similar fractions. So, anong gagawin natin? I-add lang natin yung numerator and then copy the denominator. So, 3 plus 5 is equals 8. Then, copy the denominator 2. Okay, so ilo-lowest term natin yan. So, we have x is equals to 4. Because 8 divided by 2 is 4. That's our first solution. Okay, dito sa kabila, ganun din. So, we have x, negative 3 halves plus 5 over 2 is 2 over 2 is equals to 1. So, that's our second solution. Okay, next, let's proceed to example number 2. Solve x squared plus 4x is equals to negative 3. So, again, follow natin yung steps. So, step 1, separate the constant term from the variable terms. So, as you can see, yung given equation natin, nakaseparate na yung mga terms na merong variable at saka yung terms na walang variable. So, kaya, ang gagawin natin ay i-rewrite lang natin siya dito. Okay? Then, proceed tayo sa step 2. So, step 2, divide both sides by the value of a. And obviously, yung a natin dito ay 1. So, sabi ko kanina sa example number 1 natin, na kapag dinivide natin ang isang number or expression sa 1, wala pa rin magiging effect dito. Kaya, hindi na natin kailangan gawin yung step 2. So, mag-jump na tayo sa step 3. Pero, you have to follow the recommended step. Okay, so, punta na tayo sa step 3. Add the square of 1/2 of the coefficient of the linear term on both sides of the equation or apply this expression. So, paano natin gagawin yun? So, ilagay lang natin dito sa kabila yung b over 2 square. Tapos, i-identify natin yung b or yung coefficient ng linear term natin, which is 4. Okay, so yun yung b natin. Yan. So, isa-substitute lang natin siya dito sa expression na yan. So, 4 over yung 2, ito yan, then square. So, isi-simplify lang natin to. 4 over 2 is equals to 2. Or 4 divided by 2 is 2, then square. And 2 square is equals to 4. Ngayon, kailangan natin i-add yung result na to dito sa magkabilang side ng equation. Kasi yun ang sabi dito sa step 3, add on both sides of the equation. So, gawa lang tayo dito ng yan. So, yung x squared plus 4x plus blank is equals to negative 3 plus blank. So, yung blank na yan, ito yung result natin dito, yun ang ilalagay natin dito sa blank. So, ilagay lang natin yan. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, naging perfect square trinomial na yung side na to. So, pwede na natin gawin yung step 4. Okay, so step 4, express the left side of the equation as a square binomial. So, papaano natin gagawin yun? Kunin mo lang yung square root ng quadratic term tsaka yung square root ng constant term dito. So, kaya magiging ganito siya. So, yan, x plus 2 square. Yung square root ng x squared, x. Yung square root ng 4 ay 2. Then, square. Okay, so next naman, ito naman, isi-simplify lang natin siya, is equal to positive 1. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. Okay, so step 5, solve the resulting quadratic equation by extracting the square root. So, lalagyan lang natin siya ng radical sign, both sides of the equation. Then, square root of quantity x plus 2 square. Cancel lang natin yung radical pati yung exponent. So, yung natira lang dyan ay x plus 2. Then, the square root of 1. So, since 1 is greater than 0, so meron tayong dalawang real roots, positive and negative 1. So, step 6, solve the resulting linear equation. So, ang gagawin lang natin, i-isolate lang natin yung x dito sa left side ng equation, tapos ililipat lang natin or itatranspose lang natin yung positive 2 dito sa right side ng equation. Ganito. So, we have x is equals to, bring down lang natin yung positive and negative 1, then yung positive 2, magiging negative 2 na siya. So, dito, dahil meron tayong positive and negative 1, so hihiwalayin lang natin yan. So, ang una ay x is equals to positive 1, then minus 2. Sa kabila naman ay x is equals to negative 1 minus 2. So, to simplify, so we have x is equals to negative 1. So, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So, yan yung first solution natin. Then, dito naman sa kabila, x is equals to negative 1 minus 2 is equals to x is equals to negative 3. And that's our second solution. Okay, so that's all for this video. You can now answer learning task 3 letter C in your activity sheets.